My stepmother gave my 9-year-old daughter used clothes from Goodwill for her birthday, while my stepbrother got a new bike. She said, "Your mother can't afford nice things anyway." My daughter said thank you quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Then a delivery truck pulled up with a large box addressed to her. The driver checked his clipboard and said, "Delivery from." My stepmother's face turned red. Not pink. Not flushed. Red like someone had slapped her. Let me tell you how we got here. The party was at my father's house, the same house where I grew up, where my mother used to host my birthdays before the divorce. It was 2:47 in the afternoon on a Saturday in October. My daughter's 9th birthday. There were 12 people there. My father, my stepmother Linda, my half-brother Connor, who's 15, my stepmother's sister and her family, and a few of Connor's friends. Linda had organized everything. Balloon arch in the backyard. Catered sandwiches from that place on Maple Street. A sheet cake from Whole Foods with purple frosting. My daughter Emma sat at the folding table they'd set up on the patio, wearing the dress I'd bought her from Target 2 weeks earlier. Navy blue with small white flowers. $28. Linda had made a comment when we arrived. "Oh, that's cute. Very budget-friendly." I didn't respond. I'd learned not to. The thing about Linda is that she's been in my life since I was 16. My parents divorced when I was 15, messy, expensive, the kind where lawyers got rich and nobody else did. My father remarried 8 months later. I did the math even then. Linda moved into our house before the ink was dry on the decree. She brought her son from her first marriage, and suddenly I had a stepbrother who got the bigger bedroom and a stepmother who made it clear I was a reminder of my father's previous life. "You look so much like your mother," she'd say, and it was never a compliment. By the time I was 18, I'd moved out. Went to community college. Worked 3 jobs, morning shift at Starbucks, afternoon receptionist at a dental office, weekend retail at Nordstrom. My father paid exactly $0 toward my education. Linda made sure of that. I heard her once, through their bedroom door when I came by to pick up some mail, "She's not our responsibility anymore. She's an adult." I was 19. Over the years, the pattern became clear. Connor got a car for his 16th birthday, a used Honda Civic, but still. I'd taken the bus until I could afford my own vehicle at 23. Connor's college was fully funded. My student loans hit $47,000 before I finally paid them off. Every family dinner, every holiday, every gathering was a reminder that I existed in a different category. The before Linda child. The one who didn't quite fit. But I learned to smile. I learned to show up. I learned that the best revenge isn't anger, it's patience. When Emma was born 6 years into my marriage to David, Linda sent a card with a $25 Target gift card inside. Connor got $1,000 in savings bonds when his son was born 3 years later. I'd been making calls by then. Quiet calls. The kind you don't mention at family dinners. April 12, 2019. I registered my first LLC. Cost me $275 in filing fees. I'd been working as a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized tech firm in the city, making $83,000 a year. Decent money. Enough to support my family, pay the mortgage on our modest 3-bedroom in the suburbs. But I'd been watching, learning. I'd been in enough client meetings to understand how businesses worked, how contracts were structured, how the real money was made. By September 2019, I had my first client. A small dental practice that needed help with their social media presence. I charged them $2,000 a month. I did the work after Emma went to bed, between 9 p.m. and midnight. David knew. He'd bring me tea, kiss the top of my head, tell me to come to bed soon. My father didn't know. Linda didn't know. That's how I wanted it. Thanksgiving 2020. Linda mentioned at dinner that Connor was thinking about starting his own business. "He's so entrepreneurial," she said, passing the sweet potatoes. Just like his stepfather. Some people are born with that instinct. I had 4 clients by then. Monthly revenue, $8,500. I was running the business from a laptop at my kitchen table. "That's wonderful," I said. "What kind of business?" Connor shrugged. He was 22, still living at home. "Something with cryptocurrency, maybe? Or dropshipping." Haven't decided. He never started it. I didn't know that same week, my father was meeting with his financial advisor, discussing how to structure his estate to ensure Connor and his son would be taken care of. I found out about that meeting later, much later, from a lawyer's casual comment. By March 2021, I had 8 clients. I hired my first contractor, a graphic designer I'd met through a professional networking group. Monthly revenue, $15,000. I was still working my day job, still showing up to family events with a smile, still letting Linda make comments about how I must be busy because I looked tired. You should take better care of yourself, she said at Easter. Motherhood is exhausting. Maybe if you didn't work so much. I just signed a contract with a regional healthcare system for $6,000 a month. You're probably right, I said. She nodded, satisfied. June 2021. My father called. He wanted to talk about his will. Not the contents, just to let me know he was getting things in order. He was 64, healthy, but planning ahead. I asked if I needed to be involved in any discussions. Long pause. Linda and I have it handled, he said. We'll make sure everything's fair. I'd learned what fair meant in their dictionary. It didn't include me. That's when I hired Sarah Chin, an estate attorney whose office was 45 minutes from my house. Cost me $350 an hour. I spent $1,750 in that first meeting, asking questions, understanding my options, learning what I couldn't count on. Sarah was direct. If you're not in the will, you're not in the will. But if you build your own financial security, it won't matter what they decide. I'd been building. They had no idea how much. By December 2022, I'd quit my corporate job. The business was generating $32,000 a month. I had 12 clients, 3 contractors, and a waiting list. I'd moved operations from my kitchen table to a small office space downtown, 850 square feet, $1,400 a month rent. I told my family I was freelancing and doing some consulting work. I kept my LinkedIn profile vague. I wore the same clothes to family events that I'd worn for years. I drove the same 2015 Toyota Camry. Christmas 2022. Linda gave Emma a set of used books from a thrift store. The price sticker was still on one, $3.50. She gave Connor's son a wooden train set from some boutique toy store. New, wrapped in expensive paper. The price tag had been removed, but I saw the receipt later on the counter. $240. Emma loves to read, Linda said, watching my daughter open the package. I thought these would be perfect for her. Very educational. Emma smiled. She was 7. She already knew. Thank you, Grandma Linda, she said. My hands were steady. I'd filed for an S-Corp election 3 months earlier. My accountant, a woman named Patricia who charged me $3,200 a year, had helped me restructure everything for tax efficiency. The business was on track to clear $425,000 in annual revenue by the end of 2023. That's very thoughtful, I said. I didn't know my father was updating his will that same week. Removing the small bequest he'd originally planned for me, $25,000, apparently, and reallocating it to Connor. I found out about this months later, when everything came out. But that Christmas day, sitting in their living room with my daughter holding her thrift store books, I already knew I didn't need their money. I never had. February 2023. I landed my biggest client, a national retail chain needing a complete digital marketing overhaul. Contract value, $180,000 over 12 months. I hired 2 full-time employees. I moved to a bigger office, 2,200 square feet, for $1,800 a month. I still didn't mention any of this at family dinners. How's work? My father asked in March. Busy, I said. You know how it is. Well, don't work too hard, Linda added. Emma needs her mother. I just deposited $28,000 into the business checking account. May 2023. Connor announced he was getting married. Big celebration. Linda started planning immediately. She asked me if I could help with decorations since you're crafty. She asked David if he could help set up tables since you're handy. She didn't ask Connor to contribute anything. The wedding was set for October, the same month as Emma's birthday. July 2023. I signed a lease on a building. Not for the business, for something else. Something I'd been planning for 3 years. Cost $890,000. I paid cash. Well, technically I took a small mortgage, $200,000, because my accountant said it was better for tax purposes. But I had the rest. David knew. Emma knew we were moving. My father didn't know. Linda didn't know. August 2023. Linda called. Connor's wedding was going to be expensive. They were asking family members to contribute. Whatever you can afford, she said. We are not in the same position as some of the other family members. I'd just closed a deal with a pharmaceutical company. Annual contract value, $240,000. We'll send a check, I said. We sent $500. It was more than generous for people who'd given my daughter thrift store books. But I'd been patient. I'd been building. And I realized I had exactly 2 months before everything would be tested in front of the people who'd underestimated me my entire adult life. Connor's wedding was on October 14, 2023. Emma's birthday party at my father's house was scheduled for October 21st, 1 week later. Linda had suggested combining them. We could just celebrate Emma at the wedding, she'd said. Save everyone the trouble of 2 events so close together. I declined. Firmly. The wedding was everything Linda wanted it to be. Elegant venue, expensive flowers, open bar. During the reception, she made a toast about how proud she was of Connor, how he'd grown into such a successful young man, how his future was so bright. She didn't mention me. I hadn't expected her to. What I didn't know was that 3 days after the wedding, my father and Linda had a meeting with their estate attorney. I found out later, much later, that they'd finalized everything. The will was updated. The trust was established. Connor would inherit the house, the investment accounts, everything. His son would have a college fund worth $150,000. I would receive nothing. Emma would receive nothing. She's made her own way, I heard my father say to Linda that evening. I'd stopped by to drop off some wedding photos I'd printed. David is into photography. Their bedroom door was cracked open. She's never needed us anyway, Linda replied. She's always been so independent. The way she said independent made it sound like a character flaw. I left the photos on the kitchen counter and drove home. I didn't cry. I'd been preparing for this for 4 years. I opened my laptop and checked the business accounts. Revenue year to date, $387,000. Profit, $164,000. The building I'd purchased in July was already generating rental income from commercial tenants, $8,400 a month. I texted Sarah Chin, my attorney, I think it's time. She responded in 3 minutes, ready when you are. The party was scheduled for 2 p.m. on October 21st. I told Linda we'd arrive at 1:45. Professional courtesy. Emma wore her navy dress. I wore jeans and a sweater from Old Navy, $12 on clearance. I wanted to look exactly like they expected me to look. We pulled into the driveway at 1:47 p.m. Connor's Audi was already there, a gift from my father for the wedding. Linda's Mercedes was in the garage. The balloon arch was already inflated. Purple and silver, Emma's favorite colors. At least Linda had remembered that much. Linda opened the door before we could knock. Oh good, you're here, she said. She looked at Emma. Happy birthday, sweetheart. The other kids are in the backyard. There were no other kids. She meant Connor's son, who was 3. We walked through the house. Everything looked the same as it had for 20 years. Same furniture, same artwork, same photos on the walls, mostly of Connor, a few of Connor's wedding, one small frame with my high school graduation photo tucked in a corner. The backyard was set up beautifully. I had to give Linda credit. She knew how to host. There were sandwiches from Rose's Deli on Maple Street, the expensive one that charges $18 per person. There was the Whole Foods cake. There were presents on the gift table. I could see them through the patio door. Emma hesitated at the doorway. It's okay, I told her quietly. Just a couple of hours. She nodded. She'd been to enough of these gatherings to know the routine. We spent the first hour making small talk. Linda's sister Margaret asked about David. He'd stayed home, said he wasn't feeling well. True enough. He'd also said he couldn't watch Linda condescend to me for 3 hours without saying something he'd regret. Connor talked about his honeymoon. They'd gone to Aruba. 7 days. My father had paid for it. Connor mentioned this casually, like it was normal for a 25-year-old married man to have his father fund his vacation. At 2:45 p.m., Linda announced it was time for cake and presents. Emma sat at the table. They sang happy birthday. Emma blew out the candles, 9 of them, plus one to grow on. Linda cut the cake. Paper plates, plastic forks. The cake was good. Purple frosting, vanilla inside. Emma ate 2 bites and set down her fork. Present time, Linda said brightly. There were 4 boxes on the gift table. The first was from Margaret, a board game. The second was from Connor and his wife, a stuffed animal from Target, still had the clearance sticker on the tag. $12. The third was from my father, a $50 savings bond. The fourth was from Linda. She handed Emma the box with a smile. It was wrapped in newspaper, the Sunday comics section. Emma looked at me. I nodded. She opened it carefully. Inside were clothes. I recognized them immediately. They were from Goodwill. I'd been in that store enough times over the years to know their style of hangers, their smell, the way they folded things. There were 3 shirts, 2 pairs of pants, and a jacket. All used. All probably cost Linda less than $20 total. Emma pulled out a shirt. It had a small stain near the collar. The backyard got quieter. I thought you could use some new school clothes, Linda said. I know your mother does her best, but growing girls need options. She looked at me when she said it. Emma folded the shirt carefully and put it back in the box. Thank you, Grandma Linda, she said quietly. My father shifted in his chair. Connor was looking at his phone. Linda wasn't done. Your mother can't afford nice things anyway, she said. Her voice was conversational, friendly even. Like she was stating a simple fact. But that's okay. We all make different choices in life. Some people prioritize career and money, and some people prioritize other things. I watched Emma's face. She wasn't going to cry. She learned not to do that around them. Margaret was staring at her plate. I'd been waiting for this moment for 4 years. Maybe longer. Actually, I said, speaking of choices. That's when the delivery truck pulled into the driveway. It was a large truck. Moving company size. White with blue lettering on the side. Premier Delivery Services. The kind of truck that delivers furniture, appliances, expensive things. Everyone turned to look. The driver got out. Checked his clipboard. Walked up the driveway toward the backyard gate. Delivery for Emma Morrison, he called out. Linda's smile faltered. Just slightly. There must be a mistake, she said. The driver checked his clipboard again. 9847, Oakmont Drive? Emma Morrison, birthday delivery. Emma looked at me. I smiled. That's us, I said. The driver opened the back of the truck. It took him and his partner 4 trips to bring everything into the backyard. Box after box after box. Some were large, furniture-sized. Some were medium. All of them were wrapped in silver paper with purple ribbons. The delivery from the company I'd specifically selected because they did same-day birthday deliveries, and I'd wanted the timing to be perfect. Linda was standing now. So was my father. What is all this? Linda asked. Emma's birthday presents, I said. The driver set down the last box and handed me his clipboard. I signed. Tipped him $200 in cash. I'd pulled it from the ATM that morning specifically for this. He and his partner left. 12 boxes sat on the patio. Emma was staring at them. Should I? She started. Open them, I said. The first box contained a laptop. MacBook Air, latest model. $1,299. Emma had been asking for a computer for her online art classes. The second box was a complete art supply set. Professional grade. Easel, paints, brushes, canvases. $847 worth of supplies. The third box was a new desk for her room. The kind with built-in storage and a corkboard. $565. The fourth box was a bicycle. Not from Walmart. A real bike from a specialty shop. Purple, her favorite color. For $120. I watched Linda's face. The color was draining from it. Level 1. Connor had put down his phone. The fifth box was a collection of books, new books, hardcover, from that independent bookstore downtown that wraps everything in brown paper and ties them with string. 23 books. Emma's reading list for the next year. $340. The sixth box was a telescope. Emma had mentioned wanting to learn about astronomy. $280. The seventh box was a complete set of roller skating equipment. Skates, helmet, pads. $215. The eighth box was a keyboard. Musical keyboard, weighted keys. Emma had asked about piano lessons. $390. Margaret was staring. The corner of her mouth had opened slightly. My father's hand was frozen halfway to his water glass. The ninth box was a complete room makeover kit. New bedding, curtains, wall art, decorative pillows. Everything in purple and silver. $520. The 10th box was a gift card collection. Target, Barnes & Noble, the art supply store, the bookstore. 15 different cards. Total value, $1,000. The 11th box was clothes. New clothes. From Nordstrom, from the boutique on Main Street that Linda likes to shop at, from the places that charge actual money for children's clothing. 6 outfits, complete with shoes and accessories. $890. Linda had sat down. Her voice came out different when she spoke. Higher. Tight. Where did you get the money for all this? The 12th box was the best one. I'd saved it for last. It was a certificate. Framed, professional. A trust fund I'd established for Emma's education. Current value, $85,000. Set to grow with quarterly contributions of $5,000. I handed it to Emma. For college, I said. She read it. Her eyes widened. Mom? Read it out loud, sweetheart, I said. Her voice was clear. Louder than it had been all afternoon. The Emma Morrison Education Trust. Current balance, $85,000. Administered by... She paused, looking at the name. Morrison Family Investment Group. Linda's face had gone from pale to red. Level 2, moving fast. Morrison Family Investment Group, my father said. My company, I said. The backyard was silent except for someone's ice melting in their glass. Connor's, I think. No one was drinking. Your company? Linda repeated. I started it 4 years ago, I said. Small marketing consulting firm at first. We've grown. We now handle digital marketing strategy for 12 major clients, including a national retail chain, a healthcare system, and a pharmaceutical company. Annual revenue is just over $400,000. We employ 7 people. I own the building where our offices are located, purchased it for cash in July. Well, mostly cash. Small mortgage for tax purposes. I said it the way you'd describe what you had for breakfast. Casual. Simple. Margaret's mouth was fully open now. My father had set down his water glass with too much force. Water sloshed onto the table. You own a building, Linda said. It wasn't a question. Her voice sounded like she was choking. I own several properties, actually, I said. The office building generates $8,400 a month in rental income from commercial tenants. I also purchased a duplex in March as an investment property. That one generates $3,200 a month. And our family home, the mortgage, is paid off as of last month. That was a priority. Connor was leaning forward in his chair. You paid off your house? 3-bedroom colonial in the suburbs, I said. Purchased it for $285,000 in 2018. Paid it off in 5 years. The value has appreciated to approximately $380,000 based on recent comps. Linda couldn't speak. Her hand was shaking. The paper plate she was holding bent in the middle. But you. My father started. You drive a Camry. 2015 Toyota Camry, I confirmed. Runs great. I'll probably drive it another 5 years. Why would I need a new car? Your clothes, Linda managed. Her face was doing something strange. Red, then pale, then red again. Level 3 approaching level 4. Old Navy, Target, sometimes TJ Maxx, I said. Good quality, reasonable prices. I see no reason to spend money on expensive clothes when these work perfectly fine. The silence lasted long enough that I heard someone's phone buzz in the house. Nobody moved to check it. For years, my father said slowly. You've had a successful business for 4 years, and you never mentioned it. You never asked, I said. I asked how work was going, he said. You asked how work was going, I repeated. I said busy. That was accurate. You didn't ask what kind of business, how successful it was, what my revenue looked like, whether I needed advice or support. You just assumed I was barely scraping by because that's what you wanted to believe. Linda's voice came out as a whisper. Why would you hide this? I looked at her. Really looked at her. She was 62 years old. She'd spent the last 26 years of her life making sure I knew I didn't measure up. And now she was sitting at her patio table, surrounded by evidence that I'd built something she couldn't comprehend, using skills she'd never acknowledged I had. I didn't hide it, I said. I just didn't announce it. There's a difference. You made assumptions about my life, my choices, my financial situation. You made those assumptions based on the fact that I shop at affordable stores and drive a practical car and don't brag about my success at family dinners. You assumed that because I prioritized my daughter and my marriage over expensive displays of wealth, I must not have any wealth to display. But the clothes you gave Emma, Margaret said quietly. If you knew. I've known for years, I said. I knew at Christmas 2022 when you gave Emma thrift store books while Connor's son got a $240 train set. I knew at every birthday, every holiday, every family event when you made it clear that my daughter was less important than Connor's son. I knew. I just decided it didn't matter what you thought because I was building something that would matter more. My father's face had gone gray. The will, he said. Interesting. I hadn't brought up the will. What about the will? I asked. He glanced at Linda. She shook her head slightly. Nothing, he said. No, please, I said. What about the will? Nobody spoke. I'd planned this part too. I pulled out my phone, opened my email, found the one I'd received 3 days ago from a very helpful paralegal at my father's estate attorney's office. A paralegal who happened to be the sister of one of my employees. Small world. Are you referring to the updated will you finalized on October 17th? I asked. The one where you removed the $25,000 bequest you'd originally planned for me and reallocated it to Connor? The one where you established a $150,000 college fund for Connor's son but nothing for Emma? That will. The backyard had become very cold. Or maybe it just felt that way. My father couldn't look at me. Linda was shaking her head. You don't understand. Connor needs. Connor is 25 years old, married, employed, and living rent-free in your house, I said. Emma is 9. But you're right. I don't understand. I don't understand how you could look at a child, your granddaughter, and decide she's worth less than used clothes from Goodwill while her cousin gets new bikes and college funds and wedding gifts. We were going to tell you, my father said weakly. When? I asked. Before or after you die? Margaret stood up. I think I should go. Please stay, I said. I'm almost done. She sat back down. Her hands were in her lap. I looked at Linda. Her face was completely red now. Full level 4. Tears were forming in her eyes, but they weren't falling. She was too angry for them to fall. You have no right to judge our decisions, she said. Her voice was shaking. You don't know what it's like to manage a family, to balance everyone's needs. You're right, I said. I don't know what it's like to give one grandchild everything and the other grandchild nothing and call that balance. But I know what it's like to build a business from nothing while working a full-time job and raising a daughter and maintaining a marriage. I know what it's like to make actual sacrifices instead of just talking about them. And I know what it's like to have people underestimate you so completely that they can't even see what you've built when it's right in front of them. Connor spoke for the first time in 10 minutes. Does Dad know? David? I said. Yes. He's known since day one. He's been bringing me tea at midnight while I worked on client proposals. He's the one who suggested I incorporate in Delaware for the tax benefits. He's the one who helped me pick out the office furniture and drove me to the bank when I made the cash deposit for the building purchase. He knows everything. Because I'm married to him. Because we're partners. Because that's what actual family does. I picked up my purse. Emma had been sitting quietly, looking at all her presents. She looked at me now. Can we go, Mom? She asked. In a minute, baby, I said. I looked at my father. You asked about the will, I said. Here's the thing. I don't care. Keep your inheritance. Give it all to Connor. Give it to charity. Light it on fire. It doesn't matter to me because I don't need it. I never needed it. I built my own security. Emma's education is funded. Her future is secure. She'll never have to work 3 jobs to pay for community college like I did. She'll never have to smile through family dinners where people tell her she's not good enough. Because I made sure of it. You're being dramatic, Linda said, but her voice had no force behind it. Am I? I said. You gave my daughter used clothes with stains on them for her birthday and told her I can't afford nice things. In front of 12 people. In front of her. And when I show you that I can actually afford very nice things, that I can afford things you probably can't afford, you accuse me of being dramatic. My father found his voice. We never meant. Yes, you did, I said. You meant every word, every gift, every comment, every exclusion. You meant all of it. You just never expected to be wrong about me. I stood up. Emma stood up too. She started toward her presents. Leave them, I said gently. We'll come back for them with your dad tomorrow. When everyone's calmed down. All of them, she asked. All of them, I confirmed. They're yours. We walked toward the gate. Behind us, nobody was speaking. I stopped at the gate and turned back. One more thing, I said. Emma's birthday party next year. We won't be attending. We won't be attending any family events, actually. We'll send cards for holidays. We'll be polite if we run into you. But we're done with gatherings like this. Emma deserves better than to be treated as less than. And I'm done pretending that your version of family is one I want to be part of. Linda made a sound. Almost like a gasp. You can't just, my father started. I can, I said. And I am. You made your choices. I'm making mine. We left. The drive home took 18 minutes. Emma was quiet for the first 10. Then she said, Mom. Yes, baby. How much money do you make? I'd been waiting for this question. Enough, I said. Enough that you'll never have to worry. Enough that Grandma Linda's comments don't matter. Enough that you can go to any college you want without debt. Enough. Why didn't you tell them before? She asked. Because it wasn't about them knowing, I said. It was about me building something real. Something that couldn't be taken away or diminished by their opinions. And sometimes the best revenge isn't making people feel bad. It's succeeding so completely that their judgment becomes irrelevant. She thought about that for a while. Can I still keep the Goodwill clothes? She asked. I looked at her in the rearview mirror. Why would you want to? To remember, she said. To remember that stuff doesn't matter. People do. God, I love this kid. Yes, I said. You can keep them. We got home at 4:32 p.m. David was in the kitchen making dinner. Spaghetti, Emma's favorite. He looked at our faces. That bad? He asked. That good, I said. I told him everything while Emma went upstairs to change. He listened. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, We're going to need to rent a truck tomorrow to get all those presents. Already scheduled, I said. 10 a.m. pickup. He kissed my forehead. I love you. I love you too. Emma came back down in her pajamas. It was 4:47 p.m., too early for pajamas, but it was her birthday and she'd had a day. We ate spaghetti. We watched a movie. We went to bed early. The next morning, my phone had 17 missed calls. 12 from my father. 5 from Linda. I didn't listen to the voicemails. Sarah Chin, my attorney, called at 9:15 a.m. I heard about yesterday, she said. Good timing on the trust fund announcement. Thanks, I said. Your father's attorney called me this morning, she said. They want to schedule a meeting. Something about amending the will again. Tell them I'm not interested, I said. You sure? She asked. He sounded pretty desperate. I'm sure, I said. We picked up Emma's presents that afternoon. My father's car wasn't in the driveway. Linda answered the door. She looked like she'd been crying. Her eyes were red and swollen. Can we talk? She asked. No, I said. Please, she said. I need to explain. There's nothing to explain, I said. You showed me exactly who you are. I'm just finally believing you. We loaded the boxes into the truck. It took 45 minutes. Linda stood on the porch the whole time, watching. She didn't help. She didn't speak again. When we pulled out of the driveway, she was still standing there. For 3 months, everything was quiet. My business continued growing. We signed 2 new clients in November, total annual contract value $290,000. Emma started piano lessons. David got a promotion at his job. We started planning a vacation to Hawaii for the summer. Christmas came. I sent cards to my father and Linda. Polite, generic ones from the box at Target. They sent one back with a check for $500 made out to Emma. I deposited it into her trust fund without comment. January, February, March. Quiet. Peaceful. My business crossed $500,000 in annual revenue. I hired 2 more employees. We moved to a bigger office, 3,500 square feet. I negotiated a 5-year lease with an option to purchase the building. Everything was settled. Everything was resolved. Then last week, my lawyer called. "We have a problem," Sarah said. "What kind of problem?" "Your stepmother is claiming the business transfer was completed under duress. She's filed a motion to." I hung up, opened my safe, pulled out the recording from the day before Emma's birthday party. Linda's voice, clear as day, "Make sure Connor gets everything. She doesn't need our help. She's never needed us." I'd been wearing a wire. Small recording device, the kind journalists use. Cost me $340 on Amazon. I'd been wearing it to every family event for 6 months, just in case. I'd been waiting for this. What do you think? Did Linda go too far, or was I justified? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more family drama updates.